Hey everyone, Tactics here, and in this video, we're going to be going through TAZAVESH hard mode, which has gotten a lot of buzz recently with the news that a Deathless run on your first try of each week will land you a myth track item for every single player in the group. Essentially how that works is at the start of every week, everyone will have this street smart buff that you can see at the top of my screen. And if you kill the final boss with all 5 members of your party having this buff, that is how you unlock those myth track rewards. And it is a random piece of loot from the entire TAZAVESH dungeon pool, not just the last boss. And it is also not tradable, so you can't give it to any other players in your group. Of course, there are ways to lose this buff and therefore lose your Deathless run. If anyone ever dies during your run, all 5 players immediately lose the buff. And if you try and cheese the lockout by joining someone else's and kill a boss, you will also lose the buff. So no shortcuts are allowed here. No matter what you do, if you do a Deathless run or not, though, the bosses in here still drop some pretty powerful rewards, with every single boss dropping hero track gear. And then completing the dungeon actually counts as a +10, which means a myth track slot in your vault. So Deathless or not, probably still worth it for a lot of people. Now, this run we're going to be going through here is from the PTR. That's why we did it early, and that'll scale you to 707. However, to make it a more accurate item level for the first couple weeks of the patch, we actually had everyone in the group take off a piece of gear, which puts us power-wise closer to like 695-ish with some napkin math. And I personally also even took off a tier piece, so I was actually only doing this with a 2-piece bonus instead of a 4-piece bonus again, just to kind of make this a little bit more accurate as opposed to being 707 4-piece and just blasting through it. Now, before we get into the boss themselves, I have some general tips and notes for this dungeon as a whole. First, I'm not going to be covering any of the trash mobs in this dungeon. They're no different than the Mythic Plus versions, and I already have dungeon guides out covering them. So if you want to know about the trash mobs, check out those guides. Second, since this is a Mythic 0 dungeon, you can keep in mind that you are able to freely change your talents whenever you want. You don't need to come in here with a general build and then use it the whole dungeon. You can change and get more utility, go into more single target, go into AoE, whatever, on a boss by boss basis before doing all the trash, etc. You can wait for cooldowns to come back. So it's very, very valuable to be tailoring your build to each situation. That being said, be careful. Sometimes you can't swap builds if certain things are on cooldown, right? So you may need to AFK a bit if you really want to full min-max. That being said, this brings us into point 3. There's no timer, so you can just AFK if you want to AFK and wait 2 minutes for a cooldown, or wait 5 minutes for Bloodlust, or whatever it is. You can take your time. You can pull 1 trash pack at a time, which is definitely the safer thing to do. My recommendation, don't do anything crazy at all. Don't do anything that's going to risk you losing your Deathless run if you are still on it. Obviously, if you're not doing a Deathless run, it's much less important. You can kind of do whatever. But if you're trying to get that myth track item, being slow and methodical is definitely the better play. Now, all that aside, let's get into the run. Where to start? You need your whole group to talk to this guy here. Once someone talks to them, you get like a 2-minute thing here before it auto starts, but if everyone talks to him, it can start immediately anyways, and that starts the trash. Think back in Shadowlands, you did some like necklace, and then you would sneak in. That's gone, so you can clear all this trash in this first area, and then we can get to Zo'phex, the first boss, where we have obviously saved Lust for him. And notably, I'm clearing all the trash. Kill all the trash in here just for safety. Why not? And you'll notice here, Zo'phex is already here with Portalmancer Zohan. So that is the hard mode version of this fight. You are going to be taking on Zo'phex and Portalmancer Zohan at the same time, which means that there is the AoE hit on pull. So you can pre-LOS. I don't think we did that, but you can have your whole group that's not your tank pre-LOS to dodge that first immediate cast from Portalmancer Zohan. Otherwise, keep him kicked, and you're going to be watching out for those Rift Blasts. And the general goal here should be to focus Portalmancer. We are respecking, waiting for cooldowns. There we go. Your focus should be to kill Portalmancer. You can see he's got like 2/3 of the HP of Zo'phex. So obviously having some cleave is pretty valuable. But in general, you know, he's lower health. It makes it so much easier if the Rift Blasts aren't constantly barraging your group. And because of the Rift Blast too, like the general positioning of a lot of things, like dodging the charge slashes and dodging these circles gets a lot scarier. So the faster you kill the Portalmancer, the easier the fight is, because once Portalmancer is dead, it's just a regular Zo'phex. Again, a reminder to use things like immunes, stun breaks if you can to break the cells. Sometimes you won't be able to. Be careful, especially if Portalmancer is still alive. That first one is the scariest one because it is possible for these Rift Blasts to overlap on the target, and that is a very easy way to die. So that is the scariest thing I would say. And now once Portalmancer is dead, it's just Zo'phex, so there's nothing else to really talk about. I think we go left, yeah, because the trash is, you know, pretty straightforward. Oh, that's too far. Okay, so that was the first boss in Zo'phex. We used Lust there. That brings us to Menagerie. We didn't wait for Lust for Menagerie. You could, if you really wanted to. I don't think it's a bad Lust either, but I don't think it's 100% needed, so we ended up just saving it for Postmaster. Now, in terms of hard mode stuff for this boss, the way it works is that the bosses now spawn faster. So instead of Achillite and Venza spawning a certain timer after health thresholds are met, they spawn on, I think it's like 15-ish seconds into the fight. Yeah, here it is. You get Achillite. And then I believe it's like a 60 seconds past that, you will get Venza spawning. So they're on flat timers now. And the goal here basically is to focus the lower health boss to get rid of the mechanic. Because really the major thing you want to avoid is all three bosses live at the same time. So you really want to dump damage into Alcrux here. And then once Alcrux dies, it's a little chill. You're dealing with Achillite on its own. And then you want to make sure that you are killing Achillite, but when Venza comes down, because the scary overlap really that's going to probably kill people is this debuff going out at the same time as Venza's Whirlwind. So here's Venza coming in at 60 seconds, 55 seconds actually. And so we're going to now try and move the boss to the corner. It's a little hard to actually keep these bosses positioned. Being in the corner again would have helped with some of the venting protocols. So it would have been less orbs around the room, which probably would have been nice. So that is something you can do, just like a normal strategy. But at this point, basically what you're really, really scared of is whoever gets a dot during this. So this is the scary moment. So whoever doesn't get dispelled here needs a big defensive or external. It's the scariest part, I would say, of this fight. And so if you're able to kill the boss before too many of those overlaps happen, Lust is not super important. Otherwise, you know, a Lust would probably be good around like a minute when Venza jumps down to get value on damaging Achillite and Venza, and then also have healing for that moment if you were going to Lust this. But like I said, we just held on to Lust, and then once Achillite is dead, again, it's just like the regular version of the fight. So there's nothing crazy to do there. Moving along to Postmaster. Also, I guess be careful from this trash. We kind of hang out here, wait for some cooldowns. This is like the most dangerous like group trash pull to do. We even CC'd a mob. Look at us go. So, you know, be careful with this trash in particular. We go across. We're going to kill Postmaster stuff. Let's go to the boss. Oh, that's too far. All right, Postmaster. This is a boss we want Lust for, just to burn it down ASAP. The change for Postmaster is that you are... I don't believe it's rooted. I believe it's 100% slowed when you pick up a package. It might be rooted, I'm not 100% sure, but I thought things like Death's Advance and Ghost Wolf do work. However, that being said, you can cheese it with other things as well. So you can use things like Disengage to move when you have the package. So you can use things like Freedom, Wrestling of Freedom. So Prop Paladin, for example, or Red Paladin, you can double Freedom people to allow them to move with the packages still. But otherwise, if you don't have movement abilities or movement freeing effects, you are stationary with the packages. That being said, you can still move with them technically if you throw them to yourself, which is a strategy that we'll use. I'll fast forward a little bit here so you can see the packages, because I think someone in our group does the throw to himself strategy. So I'm rooted, I freed him someone else, boom. But yeah, here's the strategy. He threw it to himself, he caught it, and then he keeps doing that to be able to move, because once you throw it, you can still move. So that is a strategy you can do. Otherwise, again, the freedom effect, like I'm just chain running them because I had freedom running still. And then we'll end up alley-ooping this last bomb at this point into the end there. Boom, throw it into the thing. And the boss is basically dead. So the whole goal of having Lust on this boss is just to make sure that we can burn him ASAP so that we never have to do a second set of bombs. And again, we are doing this with lower than the 707 random eye level. All of us have taken a gear piece off. So I think killing him before you have 30 seconds from these spawning essentially. I think killing him in this with Lust is pretty feasible for a lot of groups. We have so much bonus time essentially. But even if you couldn't, you could just do the same thing again. The downside is you'd have to do more soaks if you weren't planning to actually kill him. You can see we basically ignored the second set of puddles because we weren't really concerned with them once we had our area clear. But if you were having or forced to, because you don't have enough damage, do another set of soaks, you would need to actually make sure that you're getting these puddles. Then we move on to... I actually briefly want to talk about this. Now, we're going to move on to the Myza's Oasis boss. Tanks. This is the most likely pack that you're going to die on. So be very, very careful. Aggressively commit defensives, externals. Make sure you are prepped for going to this pack. This is the last spawn of the Bazaar event. So it's got 4 lackeys who get their damage amp from being with each other. It's got 2 strong arms, and it's got an overseer. So that is, or sorry, it's 5 lackeys. That's why there's 4 buffs. So this is the scariest pull for tanks. You can see my health is going. I commit bubble taunt to this. It's scary. So tanks beware. That's where you are most likely to die in the entire dungeon. Then we get to Myza's Oasis, where the first and the last phase are the same. The only difference is the second phase, where this band that we're kicking off is going to come back on the platform and attack us. So one thing for this, immediately going to the first ad phase, everyone should move towards the drum set, in my opinion, because this security immediately wants to like run at people, and that is a good way to get murdered by these securities. So everyone go to the drum set or further even, and the tank can grab both of these securities because they're kind of spawned like opposite each other. This stuff's the same. Here is the different stuff. So basically during the second phase, they come up one at a time. They all have different abilities. Brethrian, he does a random target dash and circle attack, I believe. So he's just going to jump away, do a circle, just avoid the circle. Notably, drum player in this whole phase is not safe. We did test to see if he was immune to some of the abilities on the PTR. He's not immune. He did press defensives and barely lived, I think, the frontal cast, which we'll get into later. So the drummer should get out of the drum here and move away. So watch that. Drum roll is some pulsing group damage. So that's what Hip's ability is. Vilt, I believe, does the frontal. He does the random target frontal. It's not tank targeted, so you can't point this away. Avail is the caster. So all of your kicks are going to be going into Avail. They've got a spam cast and screeching note. So you want spare kicks into that. But the important thing that you save 1 kick for every time is the discordant song. So make sure you have one. I think it's like an 18-second kick, or maybe it's a 20-second kick. So a long range kick doesn't work, but a short range kick potentially could. But you can just assign a melee kick to it. The discordant song. Everyone else can kick that. There's that frontal. And Dirt Whistle just runs around, I think. I don't think Dirt Whistle does anything. You just pick him up. I lied. He does Sound Blast. Random target hits. Knew that, guys. Haha. Noticed it. So that's a random target hit, looks like. So just be aware if you're taking that at the same time as drum roll. Look like this first one doesn't line up that way. So that's convenient. But otherwise, it's mostly about the kicks. Like, the only thing that's going to kill you here outside of getting hit by an AoE, you can see the screeching note went off. It's a little bit of a hit, but that was also combined with the drum roll, so it's not actually that scary. Really, it's Ripcord that's going to own people. So that's the major ability, and this Infectious Solo. So those are the 2 things that I would recommend, avoiding at all costs, and then just the kick rotation on Avail. And then the last phase is the same. Remember, if you don't have the damage to break this Zogron final warning shield, you can probably live if you pop a big defensive, though it might be sketchy week 1. Otherwise, we're heading back up to Soasmi. Oh yeah, fast forward all the way. Boom. For this boss, as you can see, Divide is triggering on pull. This is a full divide. We're getting 4 sections here. So we started here together. We honestly probably should have started here because on pull, this divide went out and we're like, okay, can't see the boss. That's fine, though. I think we do end up committing lust to this. Yeah, we lusted this boss because we didn't lust Myza's. And so you're now dealing with the 4 divides from the top. So immediately, it's much more important that you manage your Shuri stuff accordingly. Watch your escape plan. Here, we're just like, okay, we can just go once to circle. It's chill, that kind of thing. The other thing that has changed on this boss fight is double technique is now triple technique. So you have the same amount of time to do 3 kicks. However, every single time you kick, the boss teleports again. So she's about to do it here, so you can see what happens. Here's the first, so it's 15 seconds. We go, we get our first kick, boom, she teleports somewhere else, boom. We get back, get our second kick, she teleports somewhere else. You go there and get your third kick. The duration hasn't changed, +1 kick, +2 teleports. So definitely a lot harder than the double technique. So just you need to be on, keep an eye out. It could be good to not necessarily send everyone to chase after her. Like if someone's like, oh, I got this one, I'm chasing, and then, you know, other people can kind of stay. Obviously, I think ports still work as well to get across these walls if you have a spec with ports as well. So that can also be useful. That's Zo'asmi. Yeah, so far none of the bosses are super crazy, by the way. Like I don't think there's they're not super difficult, but they are going to be tightly tuned, and it's very easy to still die, especially like a one-off death if you aren't paying attention and you're in relatively low eye level. Hylbrande, this is a boss that I think is hard without the right strategy, and I will give you the right strategy. So basically, this boss's hard mode is he spawns a new ad every phase, the Stormbound Breaker, on top of his regular stuff. And this ad just tries to spam cast like a Lightning Nova, which you can never let go off. Now, this is somewhat difficult to manage if you have the other ads up at the same time, and then you also don't have a Prot Paladin specifically. And so my suggestion to actually manage this guy is to, one, always focus him when he spawns. You can see on pull here, this guy spawns well before the ads, and you can actually get rid of him by the time or close to the time the ads come up. So that's actually pretty useful. But later on, as you'll see, these guys spawn at the same time on the second ad set, for example, the Breaker and the Purifiers. And in that case, my recommendation is to not stop the Vault Purifiers and let them empower Hylbrande's defense. Because if you stop this CC, or you stop this damage reduction ability they're putting on the boss, one, it doesn't go on themselves, but two, they will start spam casting bolts. And these bolts you're not going to have kicks for when you have to kick all the Stormbound Breaker casts. So my suggestion is to let this boss fight just go longer and let them DR Hylbrande, focus the Breaker, and just cleave these guys down. And then once, you know, the Breaker has actually been killed, again, it's not a big deal on this first one because the Breaker dies quickly, but I can fast forward quickly to the second ad set where they spawn at the same time, and we don't do that. And you can see it gets pretty chaotic pretty quickly here because the Breaker has quite a bit of health. We stop this to get boss damage, and then all of a sudden we've got these guys bolting. We're trying to keep kicks on the Breaker, and even with a Prot Paladin and a melee kick and a healer kick, it's still a lot of kicks going off. Like we have the bolt going off, barely don't have the bolt going off, right? And now we're kind of low on kicks for these things, so it's more stressful than it needs to be. And you get more Vault Purifiers, and this guy's still alive. And so I think two things need to be done that we didn't do. One, always focus the Stormbound guy. That will make your life so much easier. Two, do not CC the Vault Purifiers when they empower defense until the Stormbound guy is dead. Once he is dead, then you can CC them and start getting boss damage. But until he's dead, just let him channel. Let him vibe out. Let him live their best life. The other difference on this fight is this intermission phase, where it goes back to the Shadowlands version. You actually can't even see it here, so I'll go back a little bit. So basically, when he phase transitions, he spawns things like normal, but the person will channel, and nothing will pop up, because only they can see it for the duration of their channel. It appears this one will show first for them, and then it goes clockwise, this way, this way, this way. So usually what people do is they will call out the colors that spawn first, like yellow, red, blue, purple, for example. And the way it works is that the top right is always the first comm, and then it goes clockwise from that one. So if they go yellow, blue, purple, red, or whatever they said, that's what it would be. Obviously, you can do this however your group wants to do it. Just decide on how you're communicating it before you pull the boss, so you don't put it in the wrong wrong console by accident, because that is not a good way to die. Now, the other thing you can do in this boss, which I wouldn't do early on, but I would do if you're trying to commit to killing the boss, is you can CC one of these mobs. You can see, like, we are committing to killing this boss essentially, so we CC one of the Purifiers, and now it's not too big a deal for us to stop this, so that we can kill the boss. So we do stop it to kill the boss. But again, generally take the slow route, and I think that's also just generally the play for a Deathless run. Make things safer, not faster. Moving on, we have what is probably the hardest boss in the dungeon, Timecap'n Hooktail. So this guy's main change, actually only change I think, is that the ads are immune to the first breath hit they take. So you need to hit them with 2 breaths to kill them, or you need to naturally just kill them yourselves. Now, these mobs still can hit quite hard once they get stacked up and start attacking really, really fast. So you don't want to just be sitting there taking them. And so what you really want to pick up is all the possible mob control utility. You want AoE slows, you want roots, you want long duration CCs, also very useful. Anything you can use to lock down mobs, knockbacks, that kind of thing, very good. Abilities like the Death and Decay slow or Gore Fiends, if you have a Blood Decay, are super valuable. Things like Mind Control has niche value, right? We're using like Mass Entangle, entangling whatever the Shaman totem is. Being a Frost Mage in here would probably be kind of sick, right? There's a lot of utility abilities that are good on this boss fight. So otherwise, this boss is going to play like normal. And this is actually the boss where we almost lose it. So one, you want to Lust on Pull, and you want to do as much damage as humanly possible in that Lust window. Well, you don't need to worry about ads, because basically by the second ad set is where things start to get a little bit more chaotic. And so you want to be able to get as much damage and shorten this fight as much as possible, while you don't need to be doing CCing shenanigans. Obviously, the ads take priority, and that is the biggest thing here. If a frontal ever misses an ad, that ad becomes the #1 kill target in the fight. Just everyone who is not getting fixated, I guess, if you're a melee player, but everyone else should immediately swap to that ad and kill it. You can see they don't have a lot of health, right? 46 million to the bosses, like almost 1.2 billion. So immediately, if any of these mobs misses the frontal, swap to it and kill it. It makes things way, way, way less chaotic, unless you have the ability to like point and click CC them, like with a polymorph or a single target entangling roots or something like that. That can also be very useful. Speaking of those things, that is the other thing you can do after this first one, is you can have people kind of position a little bit closer to their spawn and just keep mob CC'd with point and click CCs, like, you know, the individual entangling roots, pre-placing freezing trap, polymorphing, hexing, that kind of thing, because then they're not running around, right? Then they're just stuck at the beach and they can easily be hit by a frontal, like with no effort essentially, and no downside if you miss it, because they're just perma CC'd. So those abilities are very, very useful, especially again if something does sneak out and hasn't been dotted yet. Instantly polymorphing or hexing or whatever, and then knocking it, or just leaving it be and letting it get behind the next frontal, very, very valuable. So yeah, we're just lining it up. This first one's not bad. We do this baiting. We let them get closer. We put down, like, I think it's a root totem we throw down here. And yeah, we do a binding shot. And so for these ones, they get covered. Now the root totem to the right here, they're done. Similarly, I think the next one we're going to use like Mass Entangle when they get close. So the first 2 sets, because of where we are pretty straightforward. Managing this dot again, pretty scary. You want to dispel the less tanky person initially. We could also have been better with our fire, by the way. I think our fire here is kind of low-key not ideal. Yeah, this is the one where we missed, actually. So this is what I'm talking about. So the individual CC, quite good. Boom, we knocked it, we hexed it, we mass entangled it. So that's how we recovered. But keep in mind, that one guy is going to need 2 frontals now. So this frontal is not going to kill him. It's going to kill everyone but him. Now we're going to have to now deal with this one guy. So you can see we stun him. I think we drag him over to cleave him potentially, but that's what I'm saying. This can easily get out of hand quickly, and we are not actually swapping to this guy. So the correct strategy, I think, here would have been to have everyone swap to this mob because it's fixating a range person. If all 3 DPS immediately swap to it, I think it would have been much, much better. And like I said, fire, we could have been much better as well. We're going to get a little bit awkward now with space. But that's essentially the name of the game here, right? Where it's like, it's a race against time of, can you kill this boss before you have too many awkward ad phases? And so the more ad control you have on this fight, and the more ethical you are after that initial bloodlust burn to control and kill ads, the more likely you are to succeed on this boss fight. So keep that in mind. That is the biggest thing about this fight. We're going to use, things like Mass Entangle. Really, really useful. All these roots are essentially saving us right now and save this run. So that is what you want to do. CC galore. That is the best possible thing that you can do, and make sure you focus those ads. Moving on to the final boss now. If you've gotten this far, it's not too bad, honestly. I think the worst is behind you. I think Timecap'n's the most likely boss to brick your run, I think. So this boss we're entering without lust. That's fine though, because we're gonna lust in phase 2. The main difference on this boss is the soaking now does have a soaker debuff. Instead of a dot, it's a vulnerability. So whoever soaks gets a stacking vulnerability. What our strategy was is me as the tank, I was just going to take the first 2 soaks regardless, get my vulnerability. So there's the group dot and then the vulnerability, and then I'll go again. So 2 stacks of the vulnerability. Honestly, if you had a big defensive, you can probably go 3, but you don't need to risk it. You can just do a tanky DPS, take the 3rd one, and then whoever, not a healer, take the last one. You can see it's quite scary for the DPS that does take it, so keep that in mind. Also, immunities. This is where, like, if you have a similar rotation to how you deal with Brawn Pike, it would work here as well. Things like AMS, things like Bubble, things like Spell Ward. 40% transition here, like normal. And now we get into the second change for hard mode, where 1, you have to hit all 5 of the relics in one Hyperlight Jolt. Otherwise, it doesn't work, so you can't just get the ones you missed. You have to get all 5. Number 2, though, he does try and juke you. So just before he Hyperlight Jolts, as you saw there, he removes all of the relics. And this can be very, very bad depending on how far he moves them. So I'll show you again. He does every time. These are the relic positions that would be on a normal run. Boom, relocate into Hyperlight Jolt. And so how we manage this is we have 4 quadrants, and we have 4 people assigned to get one in each quadrant, essentially. And then we have a 5th floater, and he's going to go find the one that is not kind of fitting that bill. In this case, it's our hunter, Banchers. He's getting the 5th one. He sees it's this one because everyone else has one in their quadrant, and he goes there. This is going to be slightly variable. As long as each person in a quadrant immediately commits to one, then your floater, who is hopefully a very mobile person in your group, you should make this someone mobile, can go to the final relic, and they have enough time because of the cast time of Hyperlight Jolt. So just commit quickly and you are good. Again, make sure your line goes through it. And that is it for this boss's hard mode, right? That if you just need to do that every time, otherwise it's the same as before. He's going to do the AoEs around them. He's going to shoot the fragments. These fragments obviously own, so make sure you are avoiding them. They can go under the stairs and become invisible, so be careful. We play kind of away from other relics just to give us more time to dodge. So keep that in mind. There's also a spot over to the left that you can use as a decent distance from relics. And then again, the collapsing stars continue to happen. So the vulnerability buff, be careful. I end up bubbling. Notice that the bubble does not stop the vulnerability. It stops the magic dot. So keep that in mind. You have to soak through the last dot if you are using an immunity like that. So keep that in mind. And then otherwise, yeah, I can give you one more example of the relocate. Boom, relocate into Hyperlight Jolt. So make sure you are ready for that. It's just kind of the same as the first one we did, which is funny. But yeah, there it is, guys. That is TAZAVESH hard mode. Hopefully this helps you get some big loot upgrades early on in the season. And if it does, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like it, including Keystone Legend and title route walkthroughs, mythic raid guides, and much more. As always, big shout out to my supporters over on Patreon for making videos like this possible. And I'll see everyone in the next one.